Hey everyone, Jessica Morrison, realtor here with Ferris Property Group. I am so excited to be back doing these small, not business interviews this time. We are actually focusing on our local nonprofits and some community support here today. And today we have with us Aili McGill with Nickel Plate Arts. Welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Jessica.
It's a pleasure and an honor. We actually got connected through the One Zone Chamber of Commerce Taste of the Chamber event. What did you think of that networking opportunity?
Oh, we always love being a part of all the local chambers that we can because it is such a great way to not only connect with the business community, but also emphasize that all of the artists we work with who are part of our network are small businesses as well. So um, it's, the core of business is so important for the arts world to be successful. And then really, honestly, the arts are really important for the business world as well. Especially larger companies are always looking to come into communities that have a thriving art scene, that have fun things for people to do. But we also know that beautiful spaces, organizations that have fun things going on, that's also really important to realtors too, right? People want to live in areas that have um, beautiful public art, that have places to go where you can really enjoy the local flavor as well as cool arts opportunities.
Yeah, I don't know if my audience on YouTube knows this. Those who are close to me know that I do have an art background. I went to school for illustration, and I love to bring that element of storytelling and creativity into real estate. And so I love this conversation already, but um, I think, yes, it's amazing to me how many times I've seen businesses, especially under, and sometimes like people just don't know what they don't know. But when it comes to design and art, how much that creates engagement for people. So, how do you see nickel plate art specifically helping businesses within the local community?
Well, first of all, I just want to acknowledge I live in an illustrator household as well. This is my artwork on this side. I'm a children's illustrator, and then my husband is a works mostly in the comic book industry, so Batman's over my shoulder here. So illustration is near and dear to us for sure. But you know, the arts help the business community. For one thing, we drive a lot of economic development. There are studies on a national scale that show that people who come to participate in arts events spend on average something like $120 per visit on things outside of their arts experience. So they go to dinner, they shop, they take tours, they go to museums, they make sure that their arts event that they attend connects to the community in lots of other ways too, because they're usually people who are going to participate in the arts are looking for kind of immersive experiences within the community. So we know that we drive dollars here, but then also artists bring literally a different perspective into the community as well, right? So artists are natural problem solvers because so much of what we do, like we are literally making up what we do on the fly, right? And we have those Bob Ross happy little accidents all the time and have to figure out how to make them work. So we're very used to project management and that kind of in the moment problem solving. And we tend to think spatially and think aesthetically in ways that other people in the community just may not. And so I think it's always really important to try to include artists in your project teams. Whether it's city planning or even accounting, like bringing that artist perspective in helps you see what you're doing from different angles and identify those opportunities to just improve, to grow, to often just bring more beauty into your life as well.
Amen to that. How have you seen nickel plate arts develop an impact within the Fishers community? Is there anything that you are really proud of that you think really puts a unique stamp on Fishers? Or yeah,
Yeah,
I'll let you answer
yeah,
that
yeah,
first.
yeah. There's so many things. So it's exciting. This is our 10th year as Nickel Plate Arts, and we serve the whole eastern side of the county. But Fishers in particular has been a challenge because it's a community that grew so fast, so quickly, so recently that in a lot of ways it doesn't have some of the sort of core community identity that older cities like Noblesville and even Indianapolis have, that, you know, go back all the way to the 1800s. Fishers has that history, but it's much smaller than what Fishers is now. So the arts community, I think, has really been one of the leaders in helping to develop that sense of this is what it means to be from Fishers. And when I first started 10 years ago, there were some arts experiences. Gallery 116 was there on 116th Street. There are a few things here and there, but there wasn't this codified sense that the arts are going to be like a key to what Fishers is. So since then, Fishers has developed the Fishers Arts and Culture Commission and has gotten the Nickel Plate District in downtown Fishers designated as a statewide cultural district. Both of those things are things that Nickel Plate Arts helped to do. And then through that as well, that has meant that there's a dedicated public art program in Fishers. Every year they're looking to add new sculpture, new murals, new opportunities for people to see and experience art in the city. So there's a sculpture at Meyer Najum that looks like two kind of abstract catapults. Nickel Plate Arts is responsible for that sculpture. There are murals throughout the city that Nickel Plate Arts and the Fishers Arts Council together helped bring in, helped review and select the right artist for, help just sort of build the system for how we're going to create cool art within the city, and you know what kind of art is going to describe what Fishers is. I will also say that Nickel Plate Arts, I personally got to help with the planning for the Ignite Studio, which is in the basement of the Fishers Library, and now it's the first floor of the Fishers Library, not really the basement anymore. But if you've never been in there, if your viewers have never been in there, that is one of the coolest amenities in this whole county. You can walk in off the street and create art in the makerspace in the library. You don't have to have a library card. They have projects every day that people can come in and do. And then they have equipment available, like really cool high-end art equipment available for folks to learn on or to utilize, like if you just need to laser cut something for a class project, or you've got an idea for something at home and you need to sew one seam on something, you can drop in there and use their laser cutter, use their sewing machines. I think it is one of the best examples of forward-thinking use of library space, probably in the whole nation, because they know that libraries have to be about more than just books in the future. It's about gaining knowledge in all kinds of ways, and experiential knowledge is really important in that. So, and then thanks to having the Ignite space online and working so well, then Hub and Spoke was able to be developed. So Hub and Spoke is on 106th Street, and it's kind of a design center and a makerspace. The Fishers Parks Department is running the makerspace there, and again, it's completely accessible to the public. So just, you know, the amount of growth that's happened really in the past 5 years, let alone the last 10 years, in Fishers, directly built upon the arts itself, I think is really inspiring, and I cannot wait to see what happens in the next 10 years, because now we have so much infrastructure. It's like a snowball, and it's just going to keep growing.
Yeah, that's truly fantastic. I think when you go through university and you have all of these resources naturally at your fingertips to be able to explore, the concept of in a sense, like I feel like a lot of times we get into a pattern of survival or just a rhythm of life that doesn't necessarily afford us, especially as adults, more opportunities to play and create and test. And I was thinking this morning randomly about like people who invent things, and how you have to have the space and the freedom to be able to do that, so that your own needs are not only met, but that you can tap into that. So I love that Fishers has proactively considered that. Have you seen any socioeconomic involvement across different demographics of people who have come in and utilized those spaces? Because I feel like the natural advantage tends to be, we're going to provide these resources so that we make learning accessible for all. Has that been the case with this particular project?
Oh, absolutely. So the Ignite space in particular um, is very clearly used by all levels of Fisher Society, but particularly is well utilized by those who don't necessarily have as much access to that kind of thing at home on their own. You know, the amazing thing about Hamilton County is we've got these incredible school systems that have outstanding resources. They are, you know, within the schools, they have incredible art rooms, incredible technology for the students to access, incredible performing arts centers, but not everyone can continue to access that outside of the classroom. And so that's why the library is so important, because it means that, you know, Fishers is also probably one of the most diverse cities in central Indiana. We have so many different cultures represented within the Fishers community. And that means we just have a wide strata of income levels and backgrounds and access to opportunities. And so it is just amazing that the library had the foresight to make sure that those resources would be accessible to everybody. And again, that the Parks Department has come in and supported that as well. So we know there are folks in this community who are using those spaces for economic mobility as well, meaning they're producing things in Ignite or at Hub and Spoke that they're selling, that they are making income from, which is exactly the way a community arts infrastructure is supposed to work. That you should be able to leverage your side gig into something that can become your main gig someday, or that allows you to take your passion and your skill set and capitalize on it, literally capitalize on it, in ways that help you improve your situation. And Fishers is really making that happen in amazing ways.
Another angle, and maybe this was part of why they chose to do it at the library, but I'm just excited because I'm recognizing the sustainability aspect of this. I mean, imagine wanting to play and see if a laser cutter would be something that would be necessary. How do you most often see a laser cutter used?
Um, so I like when I first heard that this laser cutter was coming in, I was like, who needs a laser cutter? But turns out like everybody nowadays needs a laser cutter. I know one of our local artists has been using it. She'll take really thin sheets of wood and cut out these intricate patterns and make earrings out of them. Folks make ornaments out of them. So it can be a very ornamental process, but it's also a great way to manufacture mechanical parts quickly. So folks who like to make robots are often making gears and pieces on the laser cutter. It's also a wonderful tool for making signage, for making display kind of items as well. You know, I am most familiar with it from this decorative side of things, but laser cutters are a really key tool in manufacturing overall, because you can make such precise parts that you've designed very intricately on the computer and bring them into the real world. As long as you have access to the right kind of materials, certain kinds of wood, certain kinds of plastic, certain kinds of metal, you can make just about anything that can be cut out of, you know, a 2D element. So I used to be, like I say, I used to think, what can you make with a laser cutter? And now I'm like, what can't you make with a laser cutter? They're useful for everything.
Yeah, and where I was going with that was just, I think there's a beautiful element of reusing. A lot of times, grew up in the 90s, so when it was the mantra of how to save the planet, reduce, reuse, recycle, and this is one of those ways where, you know, every household doesn't need to have a laser cutter, or not every artist is going to have the money, which is most often the biggest obstacle to be able to invest in those bigger things. So I'm just excited at the relief that that puts on people to be able to step into something, especially if it's just a hobby where they could discover through that process of whatever tools, not only the laser color, but that cutter, excuse me, that are available to them for, again, you said it's open to the public or free, or is there a cost to use that space?
You usually have to pay for the materials itself. So, if you're going to use the 3D printer, which they also have, you have to pay for the filament that you use. But actual use of the machines is free. You just have to go through a certification process to make sure that you know how to use that piece of equipment. You have to take a training session, basically. But the library schedules those all the time to make sure that folks can, get that certification and get using those pieces. And you're exactly right. Um, a a neighborhood needs one laser cutter. Not every household necessarily needs a laser cutter. So again, it's much like the idea behind libraries originally, which is that books were expensive, books were hard to obtain, and books were also somewhat hard to store and take care of in a historic environment. So let's have one set of books for the whole community. Now we can have one laser cutter, one 3D printer accessible for the whole community.
Yeah, and I think I don't mean to focus so much on the tools aspect. I just love the possibilities that this creates for families, because imagine always dreaming of being able to do something as a side hobby, or um, what the question of what if, and then being able to lean into that, and on a Saturday morning or whenever you would be able to, and then see if like I'm thinking about those earrings that you mentioned, like people sell those all the time on Etsy, and what does the domino effect of that have on families? So maybe we just made a bunch of entrepreneurs.
Absolutely,
Aili.
right. And that, like, nothing's more fishers than that, right? Then let's have everybody in the community, whether you're 8 or 80, be an entrepreneur. I'll also say too, in terms of everybody's artistic journey, you mentioned earlier how, like, every adult needs an outlet. Every adult needs some opportunity to explore their creative side, even if they don't like what they make or they don't end up selling what they make. That's still a really important part of being human. Um, and the neat thing about the library is you can go in and just try materials without having to buy them. And it's not just a laser cutter. It's like, if you've never played with oil pastels before, instead of going to the store and looking at the 40 different kinds of oil pastels and trying to figure out which one is right for you, you can go to the library, you can try the sets that they have, get a sense of how the medium works, and then if you like it, then you can explore and start investing. I know so many artists who knew they were artists, who liked the work they were doing, who believed in their skill, but were using the wrong medium. And when they finally experimented and tried something else, it just unlocked this door, and they suddenly became so incredibly talented. Um, you know, uh, and again, it's invaluable to have that kind of resource within our community that's free. It allows you immediate opportunity to explore that creative side without judgment, without expecting an outcome, without a grade on it. Just explore.
Oh, that's so fantastic. And for those watching, if they're in maybe a neighboring area where, let's say, like Noblesville, Lawrence, or Carmel, like, are they able to use the resources at that library if they don't live in Fishers?
Yeah, so like I say, many of the things at in the Ignite Makerspace, you don't have to have a library card or anything. And even if you are out of region, they have some. There are a few pieces of equipment that you have to have a library card for, just because if they walked off, it would be a big loss to the library. Um, but they have means to allow you to check those out and utilize them as well. So, right, don't worry about what your zip code is. Just go ahead and walk in. They will take care of you. It really is truly open to all.
That's wonderful. So we've talked a lot about the library and that fantastic resource that is for the Fishers and neighboring communities. But what else has Nickel Play Arts either done or you feel is a significant highlight that more people should know about?
Yeah. Well, so one of the programs that I just love, and partially because it's in my household, is Comic Book in a Day. And that takes place at the Fishers Library. So it's a really natural segue here. It's usually in January, so we've finished it for this year. But next January, we will be collecting folks together and challenging them to make a comic book from scratch. What we find is that there are lots of people who are kind of curious about comic books. There are a lot of grown-ups who managed to miss comic books. I was one of them. I had never read a comic book before I was an adult. Um, and kind of don't know where to begin. So this is a good program for them because we bring in some professionals, and we bring in a lot of comic book lovers who are eager to talk about comic books and like how you get started and where you should begin. If you have an 8-year-old, what should you read? If you have an 18-year-old, what should they be reading? That kind of stuff, you know. But then also we have a lot of folks who have always thought, you know, I'd like to try that. Comic books are an intriguing medium, I think, that uh, they're particularly artistically challenging because they combine words and pictures, and um, they're just unlike any other medium. Time can flow completely differently in a comic book than it does in a movie or in a story. So this program will walk you through all the steps of it. Will sort of uh, push you in the deep end to making a comic book, and then at the end we take everybody's artwork and publish it. So we have a compilation at the end of what everybody created in 8 hours, and it is amazing. We've had people as young as 3rd and 4th grade. Actually, this year I think we had 2nd graders participating who each made their own comic books, and then you know, and then we've had people all the way up to senior citizens creating comic books. And we always have a couple of pros who anchor the program. Stuart Sager, my husband, is one of them, and we gather some of the other leading comic book artists in Central Indiana to help head up this program. So it's really fun. It's intense, but it's really fun. And then in addition to that, one of the things that Nickel Plate does for the city of Fishers is we kind of convene the Fishers Creative Council. So we've brought together, and we're always working to consolidate and amplify the folks who are creating art. So Fishers has some really amazing resources for musicians. Fishers Music Works has many ensembles that professional musicians in town can join up with. Even amateur musicians have some opportunities in that. What we found is that there are a lot of people who played music very professionally in college. You know, they were in their college orchestra or whatever. They get out of college, they have another career, but they still want to keep this music life going. So Fishers Music Works is a great resource for them. There's also Bach to Rock. And then if you've never heard of 317 Dance Academy, oh my goodness, you need to check them out. They are a hip hop and modern dance company that caters to kids who want to learn, like, you know, how to pop and lock, which I clearly am not cool enough to know, like, all the things, but they teach incredible classes for kids of all ages. The amount of confidence that I have seen grow in kids who start classes there is just phenomenal. And Keegan Loy, who owns and operates 317 Dance Academy, is the coolest person I've ever met. He is so inspiring and such a great leader for young kids. So we have been working with the city of Fishers to make sure that all of the information about all of these amazing groups is available through thisisfishers.com. So we're slowly working on making sure that there's a fully populated list of, like, here's everybody who's doing art in Fishers. And over the years, you'll see maps come out of where all these locations are, and the This Is Fishers calendar should be including everybody's events as we go along.
That's, again, fantastic. I love that arts is an umbrella for so many different things. And so specifically, what all is included in that list?
Oh my gosh. There are, I think, 20 different groups on the Fishers Creative Council that are represented, including, you know, Conner Prairie, which is kind of the pinnacle, the top of arts and culture for Fishers, because they're such a national museum, all the way down to individual artists who are working or providing classes. So let me think, what other names are in that list? For example, one of the artists who really does a lot in Fishers is Jeanette Pomeroy Parsi. She's been a teacher who has taught classes at Ignite. She's taught classes at Nickel Plate Arts in Noblesville, and she is kind of a Renaissance woman. She's interested in all forms of visual art, but is a especially talented abstract oil painter. And a oil teacher, as well as a drawing teacher. So she's got classes for teens and adults in various places throughout the community that we try to share through that This Is Fishers network. who else haven't I given a shout out to? It's just, I mean, it really is dozens and dozens of opportunities at this point. That I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the Fishers Arts Council too. The Fishers Arts Council runs the art gallery at City Hall. So if you go into City Hall to, you know, meet with somebody or pay a bill, or go see a lecture or something in there, all the art that's on the walls has been coordinated by the Fishers Arts Council, which is an all volunteer run organization. They try to feature Fishers artists, but they try to be a magnet for all of Indiana as well. So they have artists in there from all over the state. The exhibits tend to change monthly, sometimes bi-monthly, depending on the theme of the exhibit. And they have receptions in there where you can meet the artists and listen to live music. Not everybody may be aware, City Hall is going to be rebuilt soon. So they're going to tear the building down and build a new one. But the intention is to have the first floor of that building be arts focused, and kind of act as a true arts center for the community, which I think is really amazing for Fishers to be investing in that. We don't have a lot of details yet of what that's going to look like, but we know that they've been working with various members of the arts community to make sure that key features are included in that there's not just an auditorium. The auditorium could also serve as a full-on theater, that there's space for exhibits and for classes and things like that. So we're really excited to watch that project evolve.
That's wonderful. How do you, for those who may have heard of the arts, but not been around that discussion recently, what all does the arts include specifically for nickel plate arts? Because it's a lot.
Yeah, it really is. Well, and that A word, we try to have be as all inclusive as possible. So I think the most traditional things that people think of when they say the words arts are painting and drawing, sculpture, music, dance, and theater. So those are kind of the biggest categories that you see. But culinary arts are absolutely part of certainly the cultural umbrella that we want to include in there. Food is the way for us to tell a lot of stories and to break down a lot of barriers, right? We all eat. So especially in Fishers, I think you'll see food tied to a lot of cultural and arts events going forward. Martial arts, I sometimes say this kidding, jokingly, but really any kind of sort of physical movement, physical engagement, whether it's martial arts or yoga or dance, they're kind of all on a spectrum that we want to make sure people have access to. And again, it's such an important way to, it's a form of expression that we want to make sure everyone has access to. And then there's a whole maker category of things as well that verges into technology and robotics and some of that repurposing that you were talking about, but also just sort of wacky exploration that you wouldn't necessarily take the creation and hang it on the wall or put it on your mantelpiece, but it's still part of the creative process of exploring how parts and pieces go together. That maker side of things can also include a lot of craft and artisan work like soap making and pottery, and we know there are lots and lots of cottage industries within the Fishers community as well that need to be supported and celebrated and united under this same umbrella of this is what creativity and entrepreneurship in Fishers looks like.
So wonderful. I hope all of you who have been able to listen to this so far have can feel the energy of, I think there's an excitement of the possibility of what all could that, if you were able to step into creating and exploring and being willing to fail. I feel like a lot of people are afraid of failure and afraid of regret or, it just coming out wrong, and so that fear of judgment or criticism. But if you can overcome that, imagine, I think just the fun that's on the other side of it. And, could you give that gift of maybe it's encouragement or this becoming a side business that helps your family in a whole new way? Imagine that possibility. So, Aili, Is there anything more time sensitive that Nickel Plate Arts has coming up that you want our audience to be aware of?
Well, since we do serve all of Eastern Hamilton County, and we're actually the regional arts partner for the central part of the state, so we connect folks all over central Indiana. But specifically coming up very soon in Noblesville, we're going to hold our Ferry Festival. Welcome to Ferryville. The core of that festival is a fairy house contest. So we are seeking people right now to build us fairy houses. We basically need fairy realtors to help us create this tour. We'll take all of the houses and put them along a trail throughout downtown Noblesville that hundreds of families are going to come see. They're going to come look at all the houses. It is a contest, so you can win prizes by entering. And then we'll have all kinds of fairy themed magic throughout that weekend as well. The event itself is April 20th through the 23rd, but folks need to sign up for the Fairy House Contest by April 15th if they want to participate. So the only rules for the contest are the houses have to be small enough that one person can move them, because it's going to be me putting them out on the trail, so I have to be able to move them. They do have to be outside for 48 hours, so don't make them out of precious objects. But then we're also looking for them to be 75% biodegradable. So whether it's something you've recycled or all, natural materials, pine cones and leaves and things like that, that's what we're looking for the houses to be made out of. So it is, I can't emphasize the word magical enough. This is the most magical weekend in downtown Noblesville. And it's open to the entire community, and we see toddlers and adults equally getting into it and having lots of magical fun that weekend.
Oh my word. Okay, so I had so many things come to mind. One of which, when you said fairy realtor, like getting in a fairy costume and going around doing like little tours.
Yes, we think that will happen. So if you would like to be our fairy realtor, we
Oh
are
my
all
word.
about it.
Oh boy. Yes, that sounds so fun. So when you're talking about houses, I naturally think about like a physical residential house, but you can't move that as one person. So, and it being portable, is there a suggested like minimum size that for families that want to participate?
If you think about like the size of a shoebox, and really a shoebox can make a great sort of skeleton for a fairy house, uh, to allow you to glue whatever bark and other items. This is our puppy Addie, by the way. But shoebox is a good size to start with. We've had a lot of folks also look around their backyard and like find a log that can be the start of their piece, just as long as it's not one of those like 50-pound bottom of a tree kind of log. I'm trying to think any families who have access to gourds, those always make a great sort of base for your fairy house as well. And flower pots. I've seen some flower pots put to really good use too. So during the week of Fairyville, we will also have crafts at our campus and at many locations in downtown Noblesville. Lots of downtown Noblesville businesses get in on this, but we will give away, I think we'll have $5 fairy house kits that include the top of a milk carton for you to use as the base of a fairy house that you can make at home. So there's really, what's amazing is this will be our 10th year for this contest, and we have never seen the same house twice, right? Every single year somebody's come up with completely new and novel ways to make a fairy house. There's some great resources. We have a few resources on our website to like sort of get caught up on your fairy lore, to get ideas, but there's sort of no wrong way to do it. As long as the thing we know, because it's also Earth Week when we hold this festival, we know that fairies want to live in earth-friendly housing. So as long as you take care of that, there's no wrong way to do it.
So wonderful. And how many people, you said hundreds of people usually participate in that?
So if the weather cooperates, we can easily have a couple of thousand people come through to see all the fairy houses between Wednesday and Saturday. We've had every type of weather for this program. Last year, I know it snowed on the first day of the event, and then it was like, sunny and hot by the Saturday. But because it's our Earth Day celebration, we go rain or shine, snow or shine. We're out there doing it, um, and it's just again for us, it's a great way to connect to our natural world. But not everyone is as intrepid as us to go find fairy houses in the rain. So if it rains, that it's not quite as fun. But we will still have lots of activities that happen indoors at our partner locations. So don't let the weather dissuade you. That's the main point.
Wonderful. So the upcoming months, I imagine you guys are going to have a lot of events. What are some of the big ones? And then where should people go to see that full list?
Yeah, if you go to nickelplatearts.org, you can sign up for our general newsletter, which we send out at the beginning of each month to and that'll just have kind of the listing of what's coming up in this month. So that's the best way to kind of stay in the know, and it'll cover all of the communities that we cover. So whether you're in Cicero or Fishers or Indianapolis or Carmel, we include things that will apply to you. And so coming up, we do an open house every first Friday in Noblesville at our campus. Those open houses celebrate our monthly exhibits. They are chances for our showcase artists who have their own solo exhibits to show off, and then our studio artists will be working in their studios, and that's always kind of cool to come see people creating art on the spot. So that's the first Friday of every month. The Fishers Arts Council does a second Friday reception at City Hall in Fishers every month. And we're really looking forward to this summer. We've got our Maker Fair plus Juneteenth activities. That'll be June 18th, the day before Father's Day, on the Courthouse Square in downtown Noblesville. And it really is a countywide event. We'll have craftspeople from all over central Indiana who make everything from just gorgeous handmade birdhouses to soaps and lotions to jewelry to robots. All of that will be gathered on the square. And then in the fall, we're going to celebrate our 10th anniversary with our great big anniversary gala, and that should happen in Fishers this year as well. We're still working on the details for that. But yeah, I mean, there's really more than I can list. Like we could be here for hours and hours. So you should just check out our website. We've got a calendar of events there that covers the whole community. And then we've got kind of our signature events page too that tells you what all we've got coming up.
So wonderful. This is such a fun conversation, Aili, and I hope you all have found it as riveting as I have. If you would like to get involved, please connect with Aili or the Nickel Plate Arts website. It'll be listed in either the description or the text above this video. And again, Aili, thank you so much for making time to have this discussion. I hope you not only have a great day, but again, that our audience found it valuable and that you all get involved. And even if you're not located within Fishers or Indianapolis, please consider getting involved in the arts and supporting the arts because it truly makes so many things possible. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.